It's Monday, and that so happens to be the day that I like to talk about monsters. My name is Geoff Arbuckle, and this is Monster Mondays, presented to you by Film Seizure. You can catch new episodes of Film Seizure with myself and Jason Oliver on Wednesdays, but Mondays are for me to talk about monster movies. This week's movie is the much maligned 1986 horror flick Spookies. It's one of those movies that I'm not entirely sure if I've always been aware of thanks to frequenting video stores in the late 80s and throughout the 90s, or if it is in the collective subconsciousness because of cable, or if its reputation of being this really weird and really not good monster movie precedes it. Either which way, I'm almost positive I knew intimate details of this movie from before I got myself a copy of it and before Red Letter Media covered it on their Best of the Worst program. As the story goes, the Spookies movie started as a different movie called Twisted Souls. That movie began and completed production in 1984 and was directed by Brendan Faulkner and Thomas Doran. Almost immediately there were issues. As the film was going through the editing process, a bit of a kerfuffle between the producers, Faulkner, Doran, and Frank Farrell, and a financial backer that ultimately kind of led to creative and legal issues preventing the final post-production work of editing the scenes, scoring the movie, completing effects, and so forth ever could get completed and finished. I'll point out what the actual Twisted Soul stuff is when we dig into the plot. Now, come 1985, the financial backer hired a third director, Eugenie Joseph, to come in and shoot some more scenes so that the additional stuff can be pieced into the original Twisted Souls footage. These new scenes featured an entirely new cast and added in some new stock subplot stuff and mostly generic creatures that were entirely separate from the characters inhabiting the Twisted Souls movie. Now, again, I'll be pointing out what belongs to which creative vision when I get there. The film then was slowly trickled out into the world. It first saw the light of day in May of 1986 in France. In early 1987, the film was eventually screened in Hong Kong, but it didn't make it to American theaters until about January of 1988, about 3.5 years after principal production began. And you think, Geoff, it played in theaters worldwide. Surely it banked big time bucks, right? No, it only made about $18,000. But it did make it to video stores. It's been pretty much out of print over here in North America since then, but it has seen multiple releases in various formats in Europe, particularly in France, as recently as 2017. I feel like our financier was a French dude. France is all over the background of this movie. Now, supposedly, this 2017 French DVD is able to play in North America too. The audio is still in English, so it isn't, overdubbed or anything like that. However, the box is in French with maybe my favorite yet simple translated title in movie history, Les Spookies. It's fun to say it with the French dialect, Les Spookies. However, if you don't know how to pronounce French articles, it looks like it's called less spooky, as if you were asking, Geoff, is Spookies more or less spooky? It's less spooky. All right, so here's the basic quote-unquote plot to this melting pot of a movie. You have a group of teenagers or possibly young adults. I don't know what they are. Some act like they are probably meant to be like 18 or 19. Some look like that they're like 35 or 40. And some look somewhere in between there. They were at some party and got tossed out for one of them starting a fist fight. The guy who got them kicked out is now leading the rest of the group to some mansion out in the middle of nowhere. They believe this place to be abandoned, but soon discover a Ouija board and start messing about with it. This leads to monsters being unleashed. The Ouija board unleashes a demon that possesses one of the girls in this group of so-called teens. There's a lady who turns into a spider and eats a guy. There's some snake demons. There's a hallway demon, a grim reaper, muckmen who basically attack them. Ultimately, all those people eventually die. Meanwhile, there's a plot with a little boy named Billy desperate to find a birthday party and believes the creepy old mansion is where it's happening. I don't know why he thinks that, whatever. He does find some cake and presents and stuff, but no one's around. There's also a little boy in weird blue makeup that is chasing him around. There's a warlock or magician, I guess it is, or I don't know, something that is trying to resurrect or awaken his sleeping or dead beloved wife. I don't know. There's a literal werecat running around too, and the kid gets this Billy kid gets a birthday present with a severed head in it that talks to him. I don't know. There's also like a witch roaming about. I mean, later as the magician's wife wakes up and ultimately kills the magician, she's attacked by zombies outside. In the end, she thinks she's escaped with thanks to a guy who just happened to be parked outside the mansion. But as it turns out, that the magician himself is resurrected somehow. I don't know, man. And to make matters worse, the guy driving the car with the wife is actually the werecat dude. So I guess everybody loses in this movie. All right, so what belonged to the original idea by Faulkner and Doran, and what belongs to the reimagined stuff by Joseph? Well, the stuff with the partiers that got tossed out for fighting and arrived at the mansion looking for a good time only to be attacked by the demons unleashed by the Ouija board, the possessed girl, Muckman, Spider Lady, the snake, and the hallway demons, the Grim Reaper, final boss-like creature, that's all original Twisted Souls stuff. All of the rest of it, the birthday boy, the guy the kid meets in the woods before going into the mansion, the werecat, the magician, his wife, the zombies, the witch that shows up, and the little cloaked blue boy, all of that was added by Eugenie Joseph. These quote-unquote spookies are not very inventive in the Joseph part and mostly seem like stock elements. They are witches and zombies and some sort of weird gothic love story and a werewolf werecat thing. None of those things are technically designed poorly or are the makeup jobs on the zombies, but they aren't quite like the original monsters in the Twisted Soul stuff. There is a bridge kind of built between the two bits by making it seem like the magician controls the Ouija board and then ultimately the possessed girl, and that he's the one that like possessed her and is speaking through her. They also use cutaways of the werecat closing doors and either locking people into rooms or forcing them down certain paths, etc. I should also say that Eugenie Joseph also probably oversaw the final post-production of the movie. I want to point that out because there are times in which the original Twisted Soul stuff comes off as somewhat comical. When the Muckmen appear, there are loud, purposeful fart sounds put in with them. Considering some of the makeup effects and the creature designs of the Twisted Souls portion are pretty creative, it seems unnecessary to include those fart sounds for the Muckmen. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's funny as all get out, and in fact, it is my first like for this movie, but it still feels somewhat disingenuous. However, I'm not going to lie, I can't help but to laugh almost uncontrollably when the Muckmen come farting around. That scene is something I could watch over and over. And I knew that that was in this movie. I'd seen those parts before, but I still laughed pretty damn hard at that scene because of the way it just kind of fits awkwardly into what the movie was trying to be. Now, my second like, and I've kind of alluded to this earlier, is that the monsters in the various Spookies are at least somewhat interestingly put together. The hallway demon is kind of truly scary looking. It reminds me of something from Extra with its alien features and its goopy skin. The Muckmen, despite their serious gastrointestinal issues, are pretty cool. There are little puppet creatures for the snake demons, and they're pretty well animated too. Okay, sure, the blue boy, who is the son of the magician and a sleeping beauty, looks like a bad Halloween costume. Sure, the witch lady is a puppet, and you can see the puppeteer's hands operating the arms, but the puppet itself looks kind of cool. Hell, maybe the spider lady creature is the crown jewel of all the Spookies, as it is a pretty well animated kind of makeup effect that's done on her. From the pretty girl to the horrific spider monster, that transformation was pretty well edited. This movie proves that sometimes movies can have better story ideas or technically better ways to convey said story, but sometimes you just need some bitchin' spookies. Finally, this movie is a glorious mess. There are too many characters with too little to do. I'd love to see what the original movie was. As it was edited and cut down and new stuff was added and everything gets super condensed with all these characters, it just feels like it falls apart in the most hilarious of ways. Farting muckmen, a guy busting down a door by launching himself into it as if he's defenestrating himself, one of the youngsters looking like he's 40 years old, the jokester guy has a puppet he carries out conversations and observations with, a goofy werecat. Oh, and there's a literal exploding Grim Reaper. Hell, it even ends with a pretty girl who gets her dress ripped off by zombies, so she has to run away from zombies in essentially a slip or possibly a petticoat, only for her to find herself in a twist ending. This movie is dumb, but probably in all the right ways. It has everything you need for it to kind of headline a Halloween bad movie night. What's really interesting as I watched Spookies is that Faulkner and Doran's names are all over this movie as producers and directors. Hell, even the production company shown as presenting the movie is named after the movie Twisted Souls. It's sad to think that they had this movie they believed in only to see it get twisted this way to the point that it's probably not very recognizable to their original intent. I suspect if they had any backing from the Directors Guild, they'd probably be able to get their names removed, but I have a feeling this movie wasn't made under the regular purview of Hollywood standards. So that wraps up this week's Monster Mondays. Until next week, I'll see you later, and don't forget to check out new episodes of Film Seizure every Wednesday and a new installment of Monster Mondays each Monday afternoon on filmseizure.com, as well as check out new posts at my website, bmovieenema.com, each and every Friday morning.